Hello and welcome to the 106th of a second photography podcast. In episode 195, which this is, I'm doing a bit of messing about with AI. Now, we can use AI quite easily to generate images and pictures and things like that, and pictures of faces. I'm just trying out Artflow AI, and what I'm doing on my computer through a web browser is with Artflow AI, you type some text in that describes a picture and the AI goes and makes the picture. So I thought I'd use this for photography, and I thought I'd do something quite clever. So, well, you might disagree whether it's clever or not. So what I did was I typed in types of photographer. So what I mean by that is the first thing I typed in was photographer at a wedding, but I spelt it slightly wrong. I put photographer and at a, but I didn't put a space between at and a and then wedding. And it basically returned a portrait of a female who looks like they're at a wedding, possibly a bride. The next one I did was street photographer. And again, I spelt it correctly this time. I didn't make any typos. And it sort of came back with this man who was old and grainy and had a beard and looked slightly disheveled. And then I did iPhone photographer, and it came back with a beautiful female, green eyes, no imperfections whatsoever. Landscape photographer was next, and it came back with a slightly old looking man who looks like Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin Skywalker in the prequels for Star Wars. My next one was wedding photographer, and it came back with a very fashionable female with big earrings. It doesn't look like she's at a wedding. She doesn't seem to be in a wedding dress. And again, we only get sort of the head part, but she doesn't look like in a wedding dress. Looks a little bit like Taylor Swift. And my next one was portrait photographer. And we get a male who is grainy and withered and old, but looks more oil painting than the rest of them. And while this was great fun, and doing this sort of thing is great fun, the AI must draw on images and what's already out there from its learning, or it's starting to learn. And what dawned on me is that these are all a bit cliche and stereotypical. So I've got 6 photography images, 3 are male, 3 are female, that's fine. But for the portrait and the street photographer, it's made it a bit gritty. For the wedding photographer, it's made it sort of light and airy. And for the iPhone photographer, it's gone for what essentially looks like an influencer. And it's just making me think that maybe these sort of things are cliched, not by the AI. I'm not saying the AI is biased anyway, because it can only learn from what already pre-exists. So these things must already pre-exist, or there must be lots of things about street photography that already pre-exist, and they're all on the internet. And it's almost like the street photography one is a portrait that a street photographer would do. The portrait photographer is maybe what you would see in natural lighting portrait photography. And I appreciate you're listening to this rather than viewing it, and it might be quite difficult to understand what I'm talking about. You can check this episode out on YouTube, where I'm going to put some images up. And it just makes me think that probably within the genre of photography you're doing, or genres of photography, there's probably very cliche images that we all do without thinking about it. So the iPhone photographer looks airbrushed. The image looks airbrushed. The street and the portrait photography don't, and the landscape photography is somewhere in the middle. Texture and contrast seem very important for the street photography and the portrait photographer in the images, whereas they don't elsewhere. There's a lack of contrast. There's a lack of texture. Everything's smoothed out. So it does make me think, in the world, in our photography, there probably is bias, there probably is cliche, and there probably are stereotypical images. And an AI is only going to accentuate that, because it's going to produce something based on what's already been. So my question to you is I've had a bit of fun playing with AI images and things like that. I find it really fascinating and really interesting, but it's made me aware of bias, stereotype, and cliche. What are you going to do to avoid falling into those pitfalls within the genre of photography that you do? When you're making a photograph, is it original, or does it closely resemble something you've seen before, albeit unconsciously you might be doing that? It does make you think, doesn't it? It does make you want to throw the rule book out and do something completely different in your images. But with so many images having been taken, is it even possible to do anything wholly original anymore? Or is it just a subtle variation of something that's been before? Let me know what you think. But like I say, I've been playing around with some AI picture generators. The results are really quite interesting, but it has made me think about this. So do let me know what you think. Am I right? Do cliches exist in styles of photography and genres of photography? Does it even matter if we all do very similar things or not? Or do we have to be original? Or does anyone care? Do let me know what you think. Thank you. Goodbye.